Today, I'm going to tell you incredible stories about real people who had something totally unexpected and insane happen to them that not only, completely changed their lives, but in some of these cases, it completely changed other people's lives as well. But before, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories. One afternoon in the early 2000s, a young woman named Rose drove up to this huge mansion in the Hollywood Hills in California. She came to a stop outside the fence and she just sat there for a minute, feeling very nervous because what she was about to do was highly illegal. So, Rose was a musician, but she definitely had not made it yet. However, she was desperately trying to break into the industry. And so her big plan today was she was going to sneak into this mansion, which was home to arguably one of the most famous people on the planet, a big time musician. And her plan was to give them a copy of her demo CD because she believed if they would just listen to just one song on there, they would be blown away by her talent and they would help usher her into the industry and her career would take off. Now, obviously, she knew this could go horribly wrong. And the owner of this home could just as easily call the police and have her thrown in jail. But to her, it felt like the risk was worth it. And so Rose got out of her car and she looked up this huge driveway that extended up this hill and it reached this big gate that sort of blocked off the driveway about halfway up. And then the driveway beyond the gate continued up to the mansion. And from where she was standing, there really was nobody out on the property anywhere. It was totally quiet, just this massive mansion up on a hill. But in front of the gate, on her side of the gate, was clearly the gardener. And at first she thought maybe, the gardener was going to be a problem. That, of course, they would see her if she tried to break into the property. But Rose was desperate. And she thought the gardener looked friendly enough. And so she decided she would go up and maybe try to convince the gardener to let her go through the gate. And so she took a deep breath, and with her demo CD in hand, Rose began walking up this first stretch of driveway. And as she got closer to the gate, the gardener stopped what they were doing and turned to kind of see what this person was doing. And Rose was very young and charismatic, and she seemed friendly enough. Often she comes walking up the driveway and she approaches the gardener and pulls out a $5 bill and hands it to the gardener and just says, "Look, I got no money. Like, this is my last $5. Please, will you let me go through? I just want to drop something off." And so the gardener takes the $5 and just smiles at Rose and says, "Okay, go ahead. I mean, after all, Rose is like a kid. She seems completely harmless. What's the worst that could happen?" And so Rose is kind of blown away that the gardener is actually letting this happen. But she doesn't wait. She just goes right past the gardener, slips through the front gate, and starts walking right up toward the mansion. And as Rose is walking up this driveway towards the front door of this gargantuan piece of property, she's looking around at the beautiful landscaping and just how valuable and beautiful everything looked. And she's seeing all these cameras pointing in every direction. And she's just waiting for any minute, security guards to come running out here and tackle her to the ground. But nothing happened. She walked right up to this huge, beautiful front door. And again, no one's come to meet her. And so she just knocks on the front door, but nobody comes to the door. So she's thinking, what do I do? Like, I've come this far. I really want to hand this demo CD off. And so, almost like without even thinking, she just reached down and tried the doorknob, thinking, of course, it's going to be locked. But no, it was open. And so she turns the door knob and pushes the door in. And now she's looking into the home of, again, one of the most famous people on the planet. And nobody's stopping her. At this point, Rose didn't even know what to make of the situation she found herself in. I mean, she had been fantasizing about how this was going to go for weeks leading up to this, and didn't involve it being this easy and straightforward. But here she was. And so again, without hesitation, she just walked inside this home. And as she's looking around, I mean, everything is beautiful and everything is clearly so expensive. There's all this amazing artwork and fancy furniture. There's billiard halls, there's wine cellars. I mean, this is a gorgeous property, exactly what you'd expect for the person who lives here. And as she's kind of snooping around the first floor looking for the owner, she's amazed to see that it's like nobody's home. It's just this vacant, unbelievable mansion. Eventually, she walks around and finds there's an elevator. And so she's like, all right, I'll just get in the elevator and go up. So she gets in this beautiful elevator. She shuts the door. She hits the button to go to the next floor. And as the car begins to move, she realizes, like, this is going to make some noise. Like, someone's going to hear me. Like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to get caught. And so she starts to freak out. And so she pulls out her big clunky Nokia cell phone and she calls her mom. And when her mom picks up, she tells her that, you know what? Almost certainly I'm about to get arrested here. And as her mom is like, what are you doing? What is going on here? The elevator that Rose is in came to a stop and the door opened up. And as soon as Rose saw what was in front of her, she just lowered the phone, her mom still talking into it, and just stared. It was like she was totally struck by what she was seeing, because right in front of her in the room, right outside of this elevator, is the person who owns this house, the extremely famous major celebrity who's just sitting there with a guitar strumming along, just minding his own business. And he turns and looks at Rose, and Rose is looking at him. And there's this moment of just stunned silence, like neither of them can really figure out how this even came to be. Now, at this point, Rose knew it was her chance. And so even though she's unbelievably starstruck and scared and has no idea what's about to happen, she just quickly walks a little bit forward into the room and throws her demo CD onto this table that was sort of between the two of them. And this big time musician is just like, again, standing there staring at her like, what are you doing here? And after Rose did that, she didn't say anything. She just turned, headed back to the elevator, and began to make her escape. But by the time she made it back to the front door, this big-time musician security team did catch up to her, and they stopped her. However, they did decide not to call the police. And so Rose was very lucky that she escaped without a criminal record, which is sort of incredible when you consider the home she actually broke into. This was the home of Prince. Again, arguably at the time, one of the most famous people in the world. I mean, it's bad enough sneaking into anybody's home, but this is like egregious. So the idea that she got right up next to Prince and gave him her demo CD without consequence, pretty incredible. But despite all this, her interaction with Prince really didn't have any bearing on her career. He didn't care at all about her demo CD. He did not, throw her name out to industry contacts and, blow her career up. Basically, he said, I won't press charges now. Get out of here. That was it. However, Rose did go on to become an incredibly famous musician in her own right. She just did it without the help of Prince. Today, Rose's tracks go multi-platinum, and she's sold more than 100 million copies of her records. Rose is actually her middle name. You very likely know her by her stage name, which is also her actual first name, and that is Kesha.